The common discussion which is going on is, again, about the refugees. And we being celebrities, we get these questions asked, and this is the most conflicting question ever, because as a nation, being a part of this country and knowing that so many of us don't even have access to food, education, electricity, absorbing more people into our population clearly isn't a good idea, but denying those people seems even worse. So what should be, like, again, where does spirituality comes here? Like, what part does it play? And what happens to inclusiveness when such a thing happens?
You're picking on my yoga definition.
No! No, like I clearly know that this is the worst thing to do right now because they are coming in millions and millions and millions, where our own are starving. So it's like saying that I let my own child die, but I save the neighbor's one. So, I mean, what sort of negotiation is that?
If that was the intent, I would bow down to such people. I will let my own child, but I'll save your child. I will bow down to such people if they exist. But that's not the thing. We are trying to project our inefficiency as compassion. I don't like that. We don't know how to man our borders, but we are talking about compassion. That's not the truth. We're just projecting our inefficiency as some kind of a great value. There's no value to that. So, talking about influx of people from outside, see, when somebody comes to the nation's door because they are violently persecuted somewhere, we should treat it differently. After all, they are human beings. But for economic well-being, people are daily porous borders, people are going across here and there. We need to do something about it. If we don't do anything about it, we will be stupid, because you cannot run a nation without knowing how many people and who is in this country. We cannot run a country like that. First of all, we must understand, I am not for nationhood if you ask me. It would be fantastic if we live as one world, but we are nowhere near that possibility, okay? We are nowhere near that possibility. Right now, the best way to address humanity and the largest segment of humanity that you can address right now is a nation. So nationhood is right now very important and a practical solution for humanity as a whole. In the making of a nation, one of the most basic ingredients is the sovereignty or the physical, geographical peace that we call a nation. In this, there may be culture, there may be language, there may be religion, there may be everything else, economics, everything is secondary. First and foremost thing is, there is a piece of geography which we call as a nation. Now, if you're talking about inclusion, I mean, you're right now talking about India, Bangladesh, well, you know, we became two nations or three nations we became two nations in 1947, we became three nations in 71. So some people think we can make ourselves into another 4 or 5 or 6. No, I think we must stop this nonsense now, because people who are talking this do not know the suffering that happened in 1947-48. There are still… I'm sure in this hall there are many people whose parents walked across the border and came at one time. What they have gone through, what they have left behind, the sufferings and the pain, and the nearly 600,000 people who died, and about 2 to 3 million people who migrated from this side and that side. In both sides of the border, after 70 years, second generation of people still are not settled. Many of them are still living like refugees. When this has happened, talking about one more partition is a stupid and the dumbest thing to do. We should not talk about that. Now about the porous borders between India and Bangladesh, well, we've largely sealed India and Pakistan, isn't it? Why? Because they're coming across with guns. Here they're just coming for livelihood. So if they come, we can always… if people come to work, we can give them work permits. They can work here and go back when they want to, as people from Bengal are coming to South India, working for 2-3 months and going back. Similarly, they can also come and go, you can have some kind of a loose structure. But if you just allow people and give them ration cards and identity cards simply without any accounting, this is going to be a disaster. This will lead to all kinds of problems in future. You cannot run a nation without knowing who is in this country. If somebody wants to come into this nation, they must come through the front door, they must ask for immigration and come through the front door. We must have a system for that. We must have a system for that, how to how can people knock on the country's door and come inside? Not slip in from wherever they want and be wherever they want, that's not going to work. For nobody it's going to work. We have to take steps on that.
It can work for a few politicians.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately, nation's interests are being sacrificed for personal ambitions. That is there in this country, what to do?
But it still is a very conflicting thing because…
See, if
looking
you
at
want
the
to be
state-
really inclusive, we can make the two countries into one. Yes. We can make Bangladesh into a union territory and make it a part of this country, then everybody can go across, like you come from Pondicherry or anywhere else, like that you can go where you want. Are you ready for that? If you're ready for that, I think India is ready for that. If you talk about inclusiveness, that's a way to include, isn't it? Not slipping into my house from the back door and saying, include me, it's not going to work.
Okay, now we'll move to your favorite topic.
What is that? I didn't know you figured out all those things.
Okay, now we move to Shiva. So Shiva is what I got from reading about it and doing my practices and spending time with you. Shiva is not somebody looking, like sitting up there and looking at all of us. Shiva is a dimension. It is what they say in science, a black hole where nothingness seems to be the origin of universe, where everything seems to be coming out of nothingness and being swallowed into nothingness. That very nothingness is Shiva. So anybody who accesses that dimension, if you access that, you become Shiva. If I tap into that, I can become Shiva. But okay, tell me that so Adi Yogi, the very first yogi, was somebody who has access to that dimension. So why is it that you are obsessed with Adi Yogi? Isn't it like making it about the container and not the contained? Sadhguru, isn't it like that? Like you only talk about Adi Yogi. It's like Adi Yogi is the container.
Till now I've not said a word about him, you brought him.
No, but you've made the sculpture of Adi Yogi and you…
Yeah, it's only 1.5 years old, but you're not checking what I was doing these 36 years. Let's come to that, that's fine. See, about Adi Yogi is not an obsession, or the Adi Yogi is a plan. I should not… Mumbai is not…
No, reveal it.
Mumbai is not the best place to reveal it, but now that you asked…
So judgmental.
Let's go. That's her next movie, she's promoting it. Everybody must watch this Mental and Manikarnika, everything, okay? I'm promoting it so that… So, you talked about nothing. We must understand this nothing. English language has certain limitations on these aspects, but we can, because we are speaking that language, we can manipulate it a little bit. If you want to understand nothing, you must put a hyphen between no and thing. It's not a thing. That doesn't mean it does not exist. This would have been a ridiculous statement for the Western minds. I'm saying Western minds because all of us are Western educated. Maybe we're living in India, we've born in India, grown up in India, but we're all Western educated. For a Western mind, this would be a ridiculous idea. Of a couple of decades or maybe 3 decades ago, it would have been so. But now, science is talking about no things. That means non-physical dimension of existence, something that is not a thing, but still a powerful force. When I say something that's not a thing, we are not talking about nuclear energy, we are not talking about, electrical energy or magnetism or anything. Simply nothingness is tremendously powerful. Today they're calling it, black existence or dark power, or many things are being used. So essentially, you're talking about a dimension which is the source of something. Now this is something, everything here is something. But this has come from all that we call as nothing because it's not a physical form. A physical form, in essence, means a certain defined boundary. You call this a physical body because this is a defined boundary. If there is no defined boundary, this cannot be physical. So when we said yoga, this union that you're… inclusiveness you're poking at me is essentially that you transcended your physical nature, so you are not a something anymore. Once you're not a something, there is no defined boundary for you. Once there is no defined boundary for you, union is the only way you can exist, there is no other way to exist. This is not just a concept, this is a living experience, this is the reality of the cosmos. That if you look up in the sky, even a little child looks up in the sky, you will count stars. Maybe there are millions and billions of stars out there, but still, all the stars put together, they do not occupy even 1% of the space out there, isn't it? But nobody pays attention to that space, that is nothing. So this 99% or more, 99.9% is vast nothingness in this few specks of something. But your attention is only there simply because your visual apparatus are made like that. You're not able to grasp what is not there. You only see whatever stops light, in the sense, you're able to see this hand simply because it's stopping light and reflecting. So your ability to see is always limited to whatever stops light. See, right now we are sitting here, our microphone, our light, everything is important, but the most important thing is the air that we're breathing for our existence right now. But we cannot see it. Does it mean to say we can do without it? So that which you cannot see, that which you cannot touch, that which you cannot perceive through five sense organs, that is called a no-thing or a nothing. That's called Shiva. Shiva means that which is not. Now, if somebody begins to experience that as a living experience, we refer to him also as Shiva. But somebody who's not experienced it, we refer to him also. Half the people in this country at one time were named after Shiva. That is all the men, I'm saying. Ladies were Shiva, Shivangi, Shiva this, Shiva that, or Parvati, Gauri, this one, that one. Why this was so is constant reminder that you need to look beyond what is there in front of you. This physical form of being a man or a woman or this person I like, this person I don't like, beyond this, when I call him Shiva, now I cannot say I like him or dislike him. When your name is Shiva, you claimed already you're Shiva, when your name is Shiva, when I call you Shiva, I cannot call Shiva angrily, I cannot do something. It's a kind of a control over yourself, that you cannot abuse somebody. You cannot say, hey Shiva, you're this and that. You can only say Shiva. So we created a culture like this where constant reminder, wherever you look. We even called our dog Shiva. Yes, we never thought it's an insult because he's as much life as you are. We called… if you see a tree, we say Shiva, if we see a rock, we say Shiva, if we see a bird, we say Shiva, simply because the source of all that exists here as physical stuff essentially comes from that which is not a thing or no thing or Shiva. So, this is why this talk about third eye and people think their forehead is going to crack and something is going to pop out, nothing like that. These two eyes can show you only that which stops light. The day you start seeing things which do not stop light, then we say, you have one more eye going. You have an inner eye which is able to see something that these two eyes cannot see. So third eye does not mean forehead cracking up and you becoming some kind of a freak-out. That means your clarity has opened up, that you're able to see beyond the limitations of senses.